Hello and welcome back to Me on 5. This is going to be Season 1, Episode 3. Last episode was about the Hoch brothers of Rockland, Maine, and this is a continuation of that show because this show is going to focus on Wesley Hoch. Wesley Hoch was a gentleman who went to the Maine Maritime Academy, enlisted in the United States Navy, and then went to Vietnam in a very strange position. He went there to be the commander of a junk force. These are fishing boats used by the Vietnamese, the South Vietnamese, and they were going to be used to patrol the Mekong Delta and the rivers of Vietnam, looking for Viet Cong and preventing Viet Cong from attacking these small South Vietnamese villages and islands. When he got there, folks, his story is absolutely fascinating in this book. I picked it up and started reading and could not put it down. To me, it was the epitome of what was supposed to happen in Vietnam, which was Americans going over there to help the South Vietnamese. Not to just go kill communists and fight Hanoi, but to help the South Vietnamese. And this man did exactly that. If you read this book, you'll see how this very charismatic, nice-looking man from Rockland, Maine, with a New England accent, could go there and impress these South Vietnamese villages, the village people that loved him so much, especially the children. Now, the most interesting part of the book is where he decides that he's got to perform medical services for these people, medical services, dentistry, providing food for them, movies, motion pictures, clothes. One of the comments that came from his brother, is how Wesley was so smart that he contacted American companies to send free products to him that he could give to the South Vietnamese. Let's take a look at that clip where Dave Hoch talks about his brother doing that.
He, first thing he did, he told my mother, fill boxes with clothes and anything else you can think of and send them over here. He got one day and he started pulling out his own clothes. He says, God, she's giving my clothes away. But,
the camera's shaking because I'm laughing.
Then he decided, he says, well, he mentions one time, he says, you give the fisherman a blanket, it's like giving him a house. And so Mom was sending those clothes over, and the city was collecting clothes, from the school and all. And so he got that all going. Then he got the bright idea. He was up in Saigon, and he was waiting to go in to see the commander, and he was looking at the magazines in the waiting room, and he started seeing all these ads of all these different companies. So he wrote to all the companies, and he says, whatever you make, put it in a box and send me some of it. So he would be getting all kinds of pills and all sorts of things shipped over to him.
Excuse me. So folks, not only was Dave Hoch getting products sent to Vietnam from Rockland, from his family, but also he would do things that are right out of the movie TV show MASH. He would finagle stuff in Saigon. He would get products for them. He had a building built down there, a prefab building brought in, and he would finagle all these things to help these South Vietnamese people. But folks, one of the most moving stories that I read in this book was how he would care for these people. He was performing dentistry. He had to perform some emergency medical operations. You might say, oh my God, he did that without a license? Well, folks, there was nobody around to take care of these people other than him. And one of the best stories that I ever read in this book was a woman brought in her little girl who could not see or could not hear because she had such a buildup of wax in her ears and such a buildup of dirt and grime around her eyes. It took Wesley not a half hour, but a few hours of cleansing this little girl, removing the wax from her ears, removing the grime and dirt from her face, such that when he finished, that little girl could see and hear. And both the mother and the little girl started to cry. They cried because the little girl was actually normal. She was not as sick as they thought she was. She just was actually a total mess because these folks didn't know how to operate in a clean environment. Their environment was not clean. So the book is loaded with things like that. The other thing that is very interesting about this book is that Wes Hoch had a bounty put on his head. The Viet Cong offered a huge reward to kill him and his first mate, his gunner's mate, the guy he called Guns, his Tonto, if you will, Lone Ranger and Tonto. So now what I'd like to do is to play the rest of the To Tell the Truth. And I want you folks to watch Wes Hoch and the other two people try to fool the audience as we play To Tell the Truth.
Very well, panel. Three gentlemen this time, all claiming to be Wesley Hoch, advisor to the Vietnamese junk navy. We'll start this questioning, if we may, with Gene Rayburn. Gene?
Thank you, Bud. Number 3, it says something on your shirt there. Would you pronounce that for me, please?
Yes, I would. This is in relation to our language means jump force, the junk force team that operates as we do in, of course, Vietnam.
I see. Number 1, yours says something different. What does that mean? You said Dai Ui, it looks like.
Dai Ui
Dai
means
Ui?
lieutenant.
I see. Number 2, when you're converting from knots to miles per hour, what factor do you use?
What was that question? I'm sorry.
When you convert from knots to miles per hour, to statute miles per hour, what is a conversion factor?
I can't answer that.
Kitty Carlisle.
Number 3, do you have previous medical training?
No, I don't.
Number 1, do you have medical training?
No, I don't.
Well, when you deliver a baby, how long does it take?
I didn't never actually deliver a baby. I was just stood by.
Uh-huh. Number 2, do you have dental training?
No,
Did you pull teeth?
I pulled him.
Number 3, can you tell me why these junks are only manned with such light artillery?
Well, we're very, very small boats by comparison with naval ships.
Thank you. Number 1, how fast can a junk go?
About 10 knots,
An hour.
10 miles an hour.
10 miles an hour. Number 2, do they have sails or motor or both?
Motor. All of them have motors. A few have sails.
Thank you.
Tom Poston.
I gather that none of these men had medical or dental training before they undertook this job. Is that the answer? Well, then, may I ask number 2 what your job in the regular Navy would amount to? What?
I was a line officer.
And number 3?
At the present time, I'm on a boat at Newport, Rhode Island, which is a destroyer, and I am the administrative officer.
No medical. No. What was your chief complaint, number 3, when you had sick call and so forth?
Well, of course, when we're on cruises, we do for 5, 6, 10 days at a time. We have all sorts of small problems, minor ones. And they're basically smaller conditions, not delivering babies as a general rule.
Number 1, what would... No.
Thank you.
Peggy.
Number 2, were you the only Navy personnel on the island?
When I got there, yes.
And number 3, then, did you have no sailors,
No, not as such.
Thank you. Number 1, what does SATCOM mean?
Killed communist.
Oh, that's all right. But number 2, it says that you kept them from infiltrating.
That's right.
Well, what would they do? Come down from the north by boat and try to get past you?
That's right.
I see. Now, the 1,000 men that you had manning the 150 native junks, were they paid sailors of Vietnam, or were they volunteers, or what?
No, they were paid by the Vietnam government.
I see. And the idea was that number 3, that coming down from the north, they would just think it was a friendly junk. But you couldn't open fire on them. What did you do, stab them?
No, we boarded each and every one that we can find. And at that time, we asked for their papers.
I see.
And go
And
through
that's
the...
all the time we have. So show your own papers to yourselves, but not to each other. Mark your ballots at once, if you will, please, panel. Again, without consultation. Simply vote without change for number 1, number 2, or number 3. All voting finished? All ballots marked? Very well. Tom, for whom?
I voted for number 1. I tell you, I was a little confused. I think I'd trust the other two. Maybe not to pull my teeth and like that, but I trust them to keep the guerrillas from infiltrating. At least to be congratulated anyway. Must have been a tough job.
Peggy.
Well, I voted for number 3 because he sounded so kind of stalwart when he said, we searched each and every one. I felt he did.
Gene Rayburn.
Well, I voted for number 2. And in spite of the fact that he must have flunked math at Annapolis.
Kitty Carlisle.
Well, I voted for number 1. I hope it isn't number 2 because indeed he will be teased till the end of his life. But number 1 looks like the kind of a man to me who had enough initiative and strength of character to handle this most difficult job. And whoever it is, congratulations.
Well, very well. There we have a widely split vote this time. No ganging up at all. So let's see what that brings us as we learn now which one of these gentlemen, in truth, is the lieutenant commander of the Vietnamese junk navy and advisor to it. Will the real Lieutenant Commander Wesley Hoch please stand up? Tom and Kitty teamed up on that one. Number 2, what is your real name and what do you really do, sir?
My name is George Gillette, and I raise funds for colleges and universities.
And number 3, what is your real name and what do you do, sir?
My name is Ralph Stewart, and I'm the orchestra leader.
Ralph, I'm going to ask you to do us a favor while I ask our real Lieutenant Commander Wesley Hoch a question. Would you stand up for just a minute?
Yes, indeed.
Now, it's obvious that what you're wearing, Commander, is sort of a camouflage outfit. What is this black uniform?
That is the official uniform of the Vietnamese junk force, which we wore over there.
Let's see. Uh-huh.
It's a pair of black pajamas, actually.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for standing up. Well, in checking the score, gentlemen, we find that there were 2 incorrect votes, and that's at $250 each. So that's a total of $500 you take along with you, as well as our sincere thanks for being with us tonight. And we, too, are proud of you, sir. Good night. God bless you.
So, folks, I don't know if you could have guessed which one was Wesley Hoch. Probably if you listened to the Maine accent, I thought it was very interesting that he made a comment at the end of the show, and it was an absolute typical Maine accent coming from Rockland. Folks, that was aired in 1964 when he returned home. He was also on the TV show I've Got a Secret, and as I said earlier, he was featured in Life magazine and an article in the Boston Globe. My friend Cindy Bean got in touch with the actual author of the Boston Globe article, and that article I've got right here. This article right here, it says, Maine Navy Lieutenant leads Viet junks. And this was, and it's called A Legend in Remote Seas by Orville Schell, the Boston Sunday Globe, October 20, 1963. I would have been a senior at Orono High School. At that point in time, Rockland might have been one of our rivals in sports. And this article discusses how Wesley Hoch literally changed the lives of not hundreds, but possibly thousands of South Vietnamese people. And one of the friends that he had helped him over there was a man by the name of Lo. And Lo was his assistant and took care of him, took care of his animals, took care of his food. And this is a comment that Dave Hoch made about Lo and whether or not they were able to keep in contact with each other over the years.
I have got a letter that Lo wrote to him, but I don't know, they didn't keep contact.
But Lo did write a letter to him?
Lo did write a letter to Wes.
And did Wes ever see his friend Guns later on in life?
No, he never did see him. He was in touch with him some.
So folks, in the book, in the follow-up book about Lo, he had to, his wife had some very serious complications in pregnancy. And so Wesley Hoch being the empathetic and sympathetic man that he was, said, Lowe, you've got to go home and be with your wife. Lowe did not want to go. He did not want to leave his charismatic leader because he could see how much good he was doing. But Lowe, Wesley Hoch did insist that Lowe go back home, and Wesley never saw Lowe again, but he said that they parted, both of them, in tears. So I want to now close this segment by saying that Maine has had many war heroes. I served in the United States Army Reserves, and I've got to tell you something, folks. I did not go to war. I did active duty in California, and I remember bullets going over my head in an exercise where they were trying to teach us to crawl low to the ground. And folks, I didn't like it. I didn't like having bullets shot over my head, even in California. And so for any of the military men in this state that have served as veterans, either in peacetime, wartime, I don't care if they managed a golf course somewhere. If they served this country, then we have nothing but to be proud of these people. And Maine has sent many, many men to war. If you look at the Vietnam and the Korean and the World War II and World War I memorials throughout the state, you will see that we have had some wonderful heroes. And the Hoch family of Rockland, all I can say to you folks is thank you so much for what you gave to this country.